and welcome to YouthHockeyTraining.com. Today, on today's podcast, I really want to talk about the exorbitant costs of hockey. It's kind of out of control. Every turn, every step of the way, you're just shelling out money left and right. Has to be one of the most expensive sports to get your children involved. I mean, truly, the costs are really cost prohibitive. I know growing up, I skated a lot. My aunt worked at a rink, and I got to skate a lot, and I became, a very good skater. And truly, I had my little book of trying to save up to play hockey. My family wasn't wealthy, but I went to a wealthy school. Long story longer. My parents just couldn't afford it. I played football and baseball, played a summer of ice hockey, a summer. Always a great skater, always asked to play, always a good hockey player, played a lot of roller hockey, four-wheel back then. But my parents just couldn't afford it. And I can tell you this, my kids have been fortunate enough that I had a wheel and deal to really make ends meet, to even afford the hockey and make good choices. And I think that's it too. For some of you folks out there, really costs are not an issue. So in some sense, that could be even a little bit worse, just because you could pay for everything under the sun, so you can make a lot of mistakes. Might not hurt your wallet, but it's definitely not going to help your child develop. The flip side, and what I'm really talking about today, is for those folks who have kids that want to play hockey that just can't afford it. And I'm talking about families that have six-figure incomes and they're still trying to make ends meet as far as this hockey goes. Okay, so I just want to just jump right into it because just want to outline some of the craziness of the costs. As we speak, I'm getting ready to head out to buy a new stick. My kids are older now, just turned 15 and 17, and they are breaking sticks left and right. And that after that 30-day warranty, there's no return. There's no return. So you just see them break the stick on the ice, and you're like, ka-ching, there goes another $300. And you could say, okay, why are you spending $300 on a stick? When you get to the level, when you're really at the level where equipment makes a difference, you're ready to pull the trigger. You're not going to hold back on equipment so your child will not be the best that they can be. I am a big proponent on spending the money on the equipment. Maybe not the $1,000 trip week after week for an hour of ice time. You've already been to Buffalo. You've been to Canada 3 times. You're going next week. You're playing the same teams. But I will spend the money on the equipment. But still, it's super expensive. My kids, when they were younger, they never had expensive skates. And expensive skates would have not even been the right choice then, because they were too stiff. So you couldn't flex your ankle. So you wouldn't get the proper flex to develop the right stride. So right there, parents are making poor choices, because they have the money or they don't have the money, but they want the kid to be the best, so they pull the trigger on an expensive skate when they're smaller, and it's the wrong choice, so you just made a $1,000 mistake. By the time your kids are at the level that my children are at, and they need the best equipment, and they need the lightest equipment, and the most protection, the prices become, exorbitant. We're talking $300 for a helmet. Okay, who wants their kid to have a concussion? Of course, knock on wood. Just because you have the best helmet doesn't mean that's not going to happen, but why would you skimp on that? You just wouldn't. Gloves. Okay, my kids are always good about not pulling the trigger. Even in general on equipment, they never really asked for the most expensive stuff and actually chose less expensive stuff, even when I said, hey, we'll get what you need. Because really, for me, in development, I'm not going to, hold back if you're training and you're doing things and trying to be the best on the equipment, no matter what the cost. So I will say that. But that being said, to be the best you need to be, it can be an expensive proposition. So you have equipment by the time you're playing AAA hockey and you're 15-year-old, 17-year-old, even younger. You're spending thousands. Again, $300 for a helmet, a couple hundred for sticks. Even if you buy last year's model, you're looking at $150 a pop. Okay, gloves, well over $100. Shin pads over $100. Girdle or pants, looking $80, $90, $100 there. You're just adding it up. And yes, you grow out of stuff, of course. Most kids even hang on to things that are too small. I mean, that's one of the fun, it's actually not funny, but shin pads end up being the size. Kids hang on to them forever, and then you jump up 3 sizes. But by the time you're 15, 17, and if you're playing at a very high level, you're pulling the trigger on between $800 and $1,000 for skates. That's not even including the extra blades. And you need extra blades. That's a whole nother podcast. Caring for your equipment, having the right equipment, having extra blades. And they're $80 a pop, and my kids have 5-6 sets because they're playing in tournaments every weekend. It is just crazy, crazy expensive. But it's a necessity if you're going to play the sport. If you're going to travel around the world, all over the place, and no matter what level you're at, whether it's A level, AA, AAA, you're taking trips. You're taking between 4 and 8 trips a season. Everybody wants to take a trip. Everybody wants to go on a hockey vacation. And it's really not even a vacation. I mean, this becomes routine for the hockey family. You're traveling pretty much every week. You're not even thinking about the cost of gas. You know what? It sparks in my mind that when I ask people what they spend a year, they don't even want to think about it. They don't even want to calculate it. But I know my AAA friends and most of the folks, well, a lot of the folks that I know who have played with my boys, they're looking at between $10,000 and $20,000 a year. Easily right there in the $15,000 mark. That's just for, team fees of $5,000, travel fees of $7,000, equipment, hotel stays. I mean, it's just everything. Then extra teams. Extra teams. Now you're spending money on special teams. If your kid's fortunate enough to be asked for spring and summer teams, these advanced Super Series, World Select teams that really don't mean anything, you're dropping another $1,000 a tournament. So it's kind of crazy. It's not kind of crazy. It is absolutely insane and absolutely out of control. So today, once again, I'm talking about the expensive nature of this sport. This has to be one of the most expensive sports, and it is cost prohibitive. So now let me just focus in on probably families out there that are really struggling with the cost of hockey, but you want your child to be the best that they can be. What can you do to kind of keep the costs in check? Well, what I did was, even starting out 10 years ago, was really make good choices. What was beneficial to their development, my kids' development, and what was just kind of a waste of not only time, but definitely money. Well, the first thing is this. You don't have to play at a super high level when your kids are just starting out, even if they're good. Even if they're good. Again, I'm talking about the families that can't afford $20,000 a year for AAA hockey. Your child is a AAA level player. Does he need to play AAA at a very young age? I would say no. And especially if you can't afford it, because it's just not worthy of the costs. You're looking probably about, at the younger levels, the mites, squirts, maybe $12,000 a year. Who has $12,000 a year? Well, a lot of people do, but I didn't. Make a choice to play at an A or AA level and focus again on development. They may be ready to play at a higher level, but still they can get all they need at that young age to really develop properly. And a lot of times they can get more. My choice was to keep my kids at a lower level and work on the skills and can continually develop the skills. So by the time they were, well, at a very young age, they were offered crazy offers to play AAA and to save a lot of money. And I still didn't do it because I knew that they wouldn't develop. But getting back on track of the cost of it, if you don't have a lot of money as a family, just do not pull the trigger on AAA. Your child will still have just as much fun. Yes, are there a little bit of downside? Is he not, or he or she not playing against the best competition in the world? No, they're not. But it really doesn't matter because they're so young. Another benefit of not having your child play AAA hockey when they're a mite, squirt, or even peewee is you're not traveling across the globe. Again, that's a big cost saving. To play other AAA teams, to find them, you're going to have to travel. You're going to have to travel states away, like many states, maybe even to Canada. Well, definitely to Canada. So there's going to be a cost there. And it's probably about $1,000 a tournament. And once you're at the AAA level, everybody wants to compete. They want to compete at the highest level. Is that necessary at the mite, squirt, and even peewee age? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And truthfully, as an aside, your child probably has a lot of skills that they still need to master. And you're not going to have time to work on those. So here's what you do. Rationalize it. I'm not going to spend money on AAA hockey until my kid is totally ready. Because he's not going to get ready traveling in a car hours upon hours, flying to Chicago, going to Canada for an hour of ice time for $1,000. Save the money and put some of that money into proper training. And when I say proper training, getting a qualified instructor who focuses on correction, okay? That's money well spent. There's a lot of great demonstrators. There's not a lot of correction. And these camps and clinics are no help. I'm telling you, it's a waste of money. It's a waste of a lot of money because there's no correction. It looks a lot of razzle-dazzle, looks like Cirque du Soleil, but at the end of the week, your child probably hasn't advanced because they haven't been corrected all week. But they had fun. But if you can't afford just to have fun and your goal is to get better, save the money on those expensive trips, those numerous trips, those hockey trips that all families want to take, that the coaches want to take. Save it and put it into training, okay? Put it into proper training. So how are we going to save money overall? Well, let's backtrack and go down the list. Equipment-wise, when your kid's young, they don't need the top-of-the-line equipment. It's probably, the skates would be too stiff. Save hundreds of dollars getting flexible skates, not the highest-end skates because they're not going to skate that well. You also don't need top-of-the-line gloves, shin pads, that type of thing, because not only will they be too bulky, but they'll be too expensive and not really help your kid develop properly. So when your kids are at a younger age, you're not going to spend thousands upon thousands of dollars on equipment it's an unnecessary choice. Sticks, you're going to look for last year's models. You're going to talk to people about, do they have any old sticks? Nothing wrong with that. And people are very willing to give stuff away if it's just sitting around. Now, as you get older and you're in high school and you're at a really high level, yes, you're not skimping on things. I'm definitely not. I'm doing whatever it takes to be the best to get my kids to be the best that they can be because they love it. And the hockey's only important then because it's important to them. It's only important to me because it's important to them. So I'm not wasting money. I'm not spending money. It would be ridiculous not to spend the money on the proper equipment to make them the best that they can be. What else? Choosing teams. Again, you don't need to be at the highest level team traveling all over the world when your kid's young. Okay? Really young. And you probably figure this out later, but I'm telling you now. It's a waste of time and it's a waste of money. They should be doing other sports, which is an aside again, but if you want to be the best athlete and take that athleticism into hockey when you're older, when it really counts, then you'll make those good choices. Not only will your child be a better athlete and better hockey player down the road when you focus on training and not expensive trips and not playing at a super high level that they're not ready for because they don't have time to develop the skills, and they don't have time to develop the skills because they're always traveling. Save the money, let them play other sports, stay local, find a trainer, and that can be expensive, but it's money well worth it if they're given correction. And by the time your kid's older, high school age, they're going to be a phenomenal athlete, phenomenal hockey player. So you're going to save thousands upon thousands of dollars, not going to camps, clinics, AAA teams that aren't worth it. Okay, my rant is kind of over. It is mind-boggling, the expensive nature of this sport. And in some ways, you're just not going to be able to get around it. But you can alleviate some of the costs if you make good decisions, especially at the younger ages when it's unnecessary to spend thousands of dollars on equipment, thousands of dollars on travel, and it's more important to spend time on training and spend a little bit of money on proper training with proper correction. If you make good choices over a 10-year period, you can save thousands upon thousands of dollars without missing a beat. And by the time your kid, and if they're still in love with it when they're in high school, then you can really dial it in. And then there'll be offers where you won't have to pay. So just wanted to open up your eyes a little bit. Well, your eyes were probably already open, bulging with the cost of hockey. But if we can make better choices, we can not only save money, but truly enjoy our lives a little bit more by not spending every waking moment traveling unnecessarily to hockey rinks across the country, wasting thousands of dollars in hotels, and really live a normal life. A little bit more of a normal life. The hockey life will never be totally normal, but you can bring a little bit of sanity to it by making good choices. And if you're just starting out, it's time to make those choices early and not regret them later. Okay, this is Joe Gary again. I hope you enjoyed this show, and I look forward to talking to you again on another subject. Hopefully not one that's too expensive. All right, take care.